Hello everyone, what's going on guys? It is Newest and Era 8 and Souls RNG has released. It is finally out after over a month of work. It is finally out. However, y'all know whenever a new era starts, we need a new macro. You try to use your old macro, it may not or doesn't work anymore. So you know what? I got a new macro for you guys. Anyways, for the macro that I'm going to be recommending to you guys, what you want to do is you want to download this application called TinyTask. It's basically a simple application that allows you to run macros in the background on Souls RNG or whatever games you'd want to run them on. It's pretty simple and self-explanatory. So download it through this website, tinytask.net. I'll have it in the description. And yeah, let's get started. So to start off, my biggest suggestion, get into Souls RNG. Obviously, you're playing the game. So make sure you join your private server. If you join a public server, maybe down here, you could risk people also macroing for some reason, and you'll lose potions and possibly a lot of items. So off rip, make sure you join your private server. That's the easiest way to get the most items by far. So once you're in the loading screen, just press play and make sure as soon as you load in, do not move your camera. Do not move your camera. Every single time you spawn in, your camera will be in the exact same spot. You might not be in the same spot on the spawn pad, but your camera will always be in the same spot. The macro makes sure that it adjusts to that camera, so you'll be just fine where it's at. You don't want to put on a big floating aura, like say like Genesis, Gargantua, Chromatic, Sailor, because it kind of raises you off the ground a little bit, and it could throw the macro off if it's not like going in certain areas, if you understand what I'm trying to get across. Another thing that I recommend doing is I would suggest you reset and get yourself centered onto the spawn pad. You don't necessarily have to do it because the macro will kind of correct that itself. So you don't necessarily have to do that. Usually it'll correct it by itself, but I'd recommend doing it just in case you want the best results and you want the least possibility of it throwing itself off. So once you got all those steps completed, what you want to do is you want to go into your file locator and you want to open whatever you got TinyTask in. Open up your TinyTask. And before we start the macro, I will go over a few settings before we start. In preferences, if you check preferences, this setting right here, always on top, is a setting that makes sure that whenever you're in a tab, TinyTask will always stay above the tab. So since I have it on, I can click into the Roblox tab and TinyTask will stay on top. It won't go back behind the tab. That's a good setting to have on just in case you want to record your own macro or something like that. You don't have to have this on, but I recommend having it on. But the most important setting by far is continuous playback. Make sure this is enabled because you don't want the macro to only play once and then have you disconnect for being AFK. You want the macro to run the whole night, so make sure you have continuous playback enabled when you start the macro. So once you have both those TinyTask settings enabled, what you want to do is you want to go to open, and then you want to find the macro in your downloads or wherever you have it, open it up, and then press play, and then tab back in, and you'll start the macro. And as you can see, the player is moving by itself. I recorded all the inputs myself, so it'll take you through all the spawn points, all the item spawn points, except for the upper cave. Most macros don't do that because it's just a waste of time and very hard to get to, especially with the macro. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be the end of the video, guys. I just wanted to quickly get a macro out for you guys because all the ones that I looked up on YouTube didn't seem very efficient. They basically had it to where they were lining up your camera or relied on lining up your camera with a certain stud, which honestly is kind of inconsistent because not everyone's going to be positioned the same way, which can throw the macro off. Anyways, that's going to be it for the video, guys. I hope the macro helps you out. There is also a non-VIP version in the description of the video along with the download for TinyTask. And anyways, yeah, I hope this helped you out and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.